Going to be, honestly, one that could be a grand final, and it's going to be Method Orange and the Super Frogs, but neither of these teams, it's pretty crazy to actually look at Sunday and say, okay, one of these teams isn't going to make it, and that's the situation that we are in right now. It does leave that opening for the move. It gives a big opening as well to the boys to try to catch up. Now, Zico, when we look at this matchup in particular, we already started to talk about what we may see. Who do you think comes out on top?
I'm going to put my vote on Super Frogs. So far, they've won both times these teams faced. I don't think too much has changed. Hopefully, Method Orange has practiced their Windwalker DK a little bit more and really polished it out, and I want to see them have the confidence to bring it out more than anything. That's really my big takeaway from this one, because in the past, they've brought it out late, and it has worked for them, but we always said if they brought it out sooner, it would have looked a lot better for them, and I think that's what we need to see here. Have they done that?
So we also saw someone on the screen that we haven't seen in a little while we're taking a look at the team, and that is Sam I Am. Is this potentially the matchup where we see him employed?
I don't think so. I just feel like Balance Druid, which is what Sam has primarily been focusing on, doesn't seem to be working the best against what Super Frogs really has available. I think for Method Orange, what they need to be doing, like Zico already said, like we kind of alluded to earlier, is really focusing on that Windwalker Death Knight. I think it's a great answer for everything the Super Frogs have available if they play it at that top-notch level. Potentially bringing in Sam I Am, maybe, but I just don't feel like Balance Druid is in that great of a spot right now to really be implemented.
Yeah, you know, it's funny enough, in that little video that we were just seeing, he was actually playing Resto Shaman. Do you think that it is on Sam I Am to potentially pick up more specializations? Does he need to be the flex player? We've seen so many of the casters really start to take that role, Supatees. Is that the burden of Sam I Am on this roster?
I mean, the only class right now that I can think that Method Orange would really desperately need is a Warlock. And Sam I Am being the ranged specialist on the team, having played Balance Druid, I think he's also prepared Shadow Priest and Mage. It would make sense for him to pick up Warlock and Elemental Shaman and be that spellcaster specialist for his team, so he can cycle in situations where it would be more beneficial to have the Warlock, maybe then be able to even Wizard Mirror. Maybe Mez picks up a couple of ranged classes as well, because we see the most successful teams, they have answers, or they have compositions that fit into all three categories of comps. So you have the double spellcaster, the double melee, and then one ranged and one melee, and that's kind of the three archetypes of compositions. And if the teams are able to have all three archetypes and the best composition of each three of that, then those are the teams that are ahead of the curve in every regard and taking down consistent first place finishes and the highest point earners. So I think it is important that Method Orange, moving in for the rest of the year at least, branches off a bit more from the melee cleaves, branches off a bit more from just the melee caster, and starts picking up the spell cleaves as well.
Yeah, I almost feel like in a lot of ways, Sam I Am needs to do a lot of what Snuts has been doing on his team. And it's interesting that, you know, they fall into those roles potentially, but I really do feel like that is something that we're dealing with, Zico.
Yeah, I mean, Snuts for sure has been a really key player here for Super Frogs. Been able to play Shadow Priest in the last series, Rogue, we've seen him on that Elemental Shaman, even on the Warlock. Definitely been a key factor in the success that Super Frogs has been able to have this year. But with their backs against the wall, Snuts is actually going to be on that bench. We're going to see Mez and Trill on the DK Demon Hunter. This is what we didn't want to see here on the desk from Method Orange. And Super Frogs, they are going to be responding with the Mage Warlock Druid. They've actually won this matchup before, mostly on larger maps though, such as Tolveron. We'll see how it works out for them this time around.
Yep, and for Super Frogs, this has been a composition they have been implementing and have had great success against Method Orange, really focusing on denying Trill mana rifts. So Wealthy Man with spammable Polymorph, Channel with spammable Fear has been able to really deny Trill, chasing down Cubsy. Cubsy consistently crossing the map, making it difficult for Trill to land the stuns into mana rifts, and that allows Super Frogs to preserve their mana for a really long time.
Trill is actually playing that rain from above here. As you can see, he is flying currently in the air, spitting out those fell lances for pretty high amounts of damage, and that's to avoid some of this crowd control that we were just discussing. And basically what you just said, Van, is Super Frogs, they're looking to Nova Trill, Polymorph Trill, Fear Trill currently, as you can see, just prevent him from playing the game as much as possible and drag on the game by preventing Trill from essentially doing anything. doing, forcing Mez to run away, and that way Cubsy can sneak off, get those drinks, and then later on they can win. But now we see Chanimal get gripped in behind that pillar. He looks like he could be in a little bit of trouble, but Wealthy Man is deflecting, doing a great job landing out these polymorphs on Trill, and Chanimal is going to move back out to safety. Cubsy's mana as well looking good so far. No team really having a big advantage here.
I would agree with that for sure. Chanimal and Wealthy Man want to play in the midfield, and that's where Chanimal is going to be able to get the most backup from Wealthy Man. Wealthy Man, I'm curious to see what build he's running. Once again, he's going with the Lonely Winter, so it's difficult for Method Orange because the Frost Mage of Wealthy Man with this build is actually a huge threat. If he can build up Flurry procs, he's going to be able to do a ton of damage with Frostbolt, Flurry, Ice Lance. He's going to be able to do 25-30% of someone's health. And if you don't go on Wealthy Man, or if you do go on Wealthy Man and try to shut down those Frostbolts, then all of a sudden you have Chanimal's able to free cast, or Chanimal able to free cast. And I think the reason why SuperFrog has been able to find so much success in this series, in this particular matchup so far, is because they have two big caster threats. Wealthy Man's spec adaptation definitely paying off huge for the SuperFrogs.
Yeah, it's a good thing to notice right there. Chanimal again being forced to go to that pillar, and I like that Method Orange are crossing the map, but I also like that Cubsy immediately switches side, and then you have basically Chanimal standing between Sea-Doo and his teammates as the pressure is on Wealthy Man. Mez and Trill gonna look to do a little split strategy here to force out some of those crowd controls to not be as effective. Chanimal gonna be taking a little bit of damage. Now Trill is gonna look to connect, immediately gets caught up in a fear, probably gonna be caught up in polymorphs very soon when those fears are over, and that's basically the entire game plan here. Later on in Dampening though, the way SuperFrogs actually get those kills is by getting a crowd control onto Sea-Doo and onto Trill at the same time, and then going after Maz when Dampening is going to affect some of those death strikes. Trill though doing a good job avoiding that crowd control by flying up in the air with that Rain of Above. I really like that adaptation that comes in from him to avoid a lot of these CC situations that he's being put in. As we see another Maledict push being thrown towards Chanimal. Cubsy's gonna choose to deflect that with the Iron Bark, not gonna go for that Dispel. Cubsy also has his Innervate available. He's gonna go ahead and activate that right now. Big Chaos Bolt onto Maz. Should be able to deflect that fairly easily with the Death Strikes, and now he's looking to reverse his pressure back onto Wealthy Man here.
Yep, and I think for Mez and Trill, the longer this game goes on, it becomes very difficult for Sea-Doo to actually heal them up. Resto Shaman don't have the most single target healing, but they have a lot of damage reduction with the Earthen Shield Totem, Wind Shear, Grounding. That's going to be very important for Sea-Doo, but as Dampening gets higher, he loses a lot of the value, and all of a sudden a lot of the self-healing Mez has available through Death Strike is nullified as well, and that's when Wealthy Man and Chanimal are going to be able to put out tons of damage, lots of pressure, and we see in particular this game, Cubsy out-manning Sea-Doo once again. I'm kind of wondering why Method Orange decided to go with the same composition. We see some adaptations where Trill, like you said, playing the Rain from Above, is able to put out good consistent damage. Not even necessarily to avoid crowd control, it seems like he's just trying to put out as much damage as possible. I don't even know if he's playing Mana Rift because he hasn't gone for a single one on Cubsy. Maybe Method Orange is completely changing up the game plan against SuperFrogs.
Oh no, he's definitely playing the Mana Rift. But
have you seen any?
He whiffed one earlier actually, but he hasn't been able to really go for it as much either, because every time he overextends away from Sea-Doo's Dispel range, then this happens. He gets caught up in the fear, and basically what SuperFrogs are doing is they're just looking to get Cubsy a drink like he is right now by forcing Method Orange to run back like that. Every time they do, Wealthy Man is also going to be able to activate his Frozen Orb, which he's playing Freezing Rain, which gives him a free Blizzard, 2 free Blizzards actually, every time he uses that Frozen Orb, basically making his Blizzard an instant cast. But now we do see a nice swap here onto Cubsy. How is he going to respond? Activates the Iron Block, and there it is, a Mana Rift landing onto Cubsy. Shouldn't be too significant though. I do believe that he's going to be able to sneak away and drink. Chanimal being able to dish out quite a lot of pressure here at the back of that Mortal Coil. Nice Gnaw stun right there though from Mez. He's going to shut down the follow-up Chaos Bolt on that Mortal Coil. And now once again Method Orange looking to get behind that pillar. Wealthy Man though every time they do this, activates his Frozen Orb, gets a Blizzard right there as well with the Freezing Rain, and now he's resetting his Frozen Orb cooldown. You can see it ticking down 2 seconds at a time or so, and that's because every time Blizzard does damage, that's what happens. It reduces the cooldown of the Frozen Orb for each member hit. So Wealthy Man, eventually, when dampening stacks up, this cleave damage that he's able to put out behind that pillar is really going to become very significant. And Cubsy, again, has full mana. He's just chilling in stealth right now, waiting for Method Orange to leave that pillar and to go and engage. Chanimal, though, not being able to do too much, going to just build up some of his soul shards on that path. Mez going to call that back.
Yeah, and here's one of the problems for me. Method Orange, if they were implementing this strategy, but they had Trill on Windwalker Monk, I could actually see them making an all-in push onto Chanimal with the Rising Sun Kick, Mortal Wounds, reducing healing by quite a bit. But with the Demon Hunter, I don't see them have that same sort of one-shot capability. And when they're hiding behind the pillar, they're not really able to get too much done. And like I said, I kind of doubt their ability to make a big push before Super Frogs can swat them away without that Windwalker Monk. So I'll have to see how exactly that happens, as we are at 12% dampening. Sea-Doo unlikely to be able to drink. With the Fell Hunter on him, Blizzard, Frozen Orb from Wealthy Man, they can easily shut that down, whereas Cubsy, look, he's been across the map. He's been able to sit down and drink as much as he wants. Chanimal gets gripped in. What is Cubsy going to do? Manages to keep him nice and healthy, and like we kind of said, without the Mortal Wounds, Chanimal, a lot of his self-healing, a lot of the Restoration Druid healing is going to be very significant.
Basically, what I want to see here from Method Orange is an all-in aggression push onto Chanimal. When dampening has stacked up a little bit higher, I really want to see them try to go in and snag that unending resolve. Right now, though, it's very difficult for them because every time they do so, Wealthy Man is there, acting like a goalkeeper. You can see he's very annoying for Trill to deal with, constantly putting him in Frost Nova, Polymorphs, and then now again, we're going to see a big setup here. Nice Chaos Nova from Trill. This could potentially be the unending resolve. Or at least the Iron Bark here from Cubsy. Cubsy choosing to hold on to it for a little bit. Trill, though, has his Metamorphosis active, doing tons and tons of damage. Not going to be able to find any significant cooldowns just yet, but Cubsy is starting to use some of that mana. Mez and Trill choosing to retreat, though, and Wealthy Man, again, is going to be resetting his Frozen Orb any moment here as they actually grip Chanimal back towards that pillar. Cubsy, though, going to be able to deflect with that Thorns. Trill, again, in that Metamorphosis, trying to find some pressure. Wealthy Man going to be able to find the Polymorph, stopping Sea-Doo from drinking this time around. Wealthy Man is holding on to his Frozen Orb. I imagine he's going to be pressing it as soon as he comes out of the stun and activating the Blizzard to reset it, and there it is, Frozen Orb, Blizzard with the Freezing Rain. Chanimal finding a few Chaos Bolts. Trill dropping dangerously low there actually for a second. Might have to use a cooldown or two maybe. The Blur could be activated. Trill, though, looks like he's going to be fine, just sustaining himself with that Soul Leech.
Yep, definitely going to be able to stay alive. And what we've seen from Resto Shamans in the past, particularly Sea-Doo, because he's one of the only Restoration Shamans that's still playing it, is although you have a massive mana lead for Restoration Shaman, it's hard to spend that mana. Getting out the required healing you need to keep your team alive becomes very difficult, especially at this point in the game at 25% dampening. Think about this. This is Method Orange going up against Super Frogs. Super Frogs currently in the #1 point earning team at 420. Method Orange currently in third at 300 points. Super Frogs has won 3 out of the 4 cups that have been available, looking to claim another one. Just complete dominance in North America. Method Orange, they need a really strong finish in this particular cup if they want to start advancing and potentially take that second seed away from the boys. Method Orange winning this blind pick would be huge, but I don't know if they manage to pick a comp that can actually take down what Super Frogs is bringing.
So this is what I don't like from what Method Orange are doing. They're basically just losing slowly by playing this way, and a lot of it is actually at the back of these Infernals now being forced back like that. They forced out the Iron Bark. I really want to see them all in here onto Chanimal. They need to stay on target here until they get that unending resolve, but Chanimal is making it very scary for them, landing a big Chaos Bolt there onto Sea-Doo. Method Orange are going to have to respect that cooldown, but on the next push, I want to see Super Frog stay in, push out the Bark Skin, the Iron Bark, sorry, from Cubsy, and then try to find that unending resolve, because that's going to be the big win for them. So far in the game, they haven't really been able to find too many cooldowns, and they're slowly rotting down to the pressure from Wealthy Man's Frozen Orb, from the pressure of these Infernals, and Cubsy's actually playing that Feral Affinity, finally revealing his hand there, going in for that Rake Stun onto Mez. Now Cubsy could potentially be a target that they can all in later on in the match as well, now that Method Orange knows this trait, this talent has been selected from Cubsy.
Yeah, just Method Orange, what is their game plan? I mean, at what point in dampening do they make a push? Chanimal gets gripped in. This could potentially be it. We're at 35% dampening. What can Method Orange get done? But I kind of talked about, without Mortal Wounds, Chanimal's going to be feeling very healthy. They don't have the healing reduction with this composition. Mana Rift is normally the win condition for Method Orange, but Superfrog's has just been denying it over and over. Cubsy 100% mana in this situation. Although he's playing Feral Affinity, I feel like for Cubsy, he's basically saying, I dare you to go after me. That's going to allow Wealthy Man to play aggressive, Chanimal to play aggressive, and you can see Superfrogs, they're not wasting their offensive cooldowns. Wealthy Man's been holding on to the Icy Veins, Chanimal holding on to the Dark Soul. So if Method Orange starts building up some pressure, they can easily counter pressure them with those offensive cooldowns and take them down.
And that's really what Superfrogs are doing a great job with. They're holding on to their offensive cooldowns for when Method Orange are going for this all-in push to guarantee them to run back. Oh, and we do see a big push here onto Mez. Maledicts are flying in. Seedu's going to dispel that one. Nice Earthen Wall Totem, as well as his Spirit Walker's Grace going to give him that immunity to interrupts. But a beautiful Shadow Fury here from Chanimal. He's also going to set up Wealthy Man for the Blizzard. They have to go in here and try to activate some defensives here, get some pressure. And we see Chanimal activating that Dark Soul now, trying to reverse that pressure. Mez going to activate the Anti-Magic Zone, trying to stay alive here and counter that pressure. Cubsy still not used his Iron Bar just yet. Going to just be emptying out the mana bar that he has. And Mez once again forced to retreat here, Van.
Yeah, this is not looking good for Method Orange. They haven't been able to really accomplish anything in this match. This composition was not a good pick from them. Superfrogs just domination from start to finish. All three members rotting down. I don't know if they're going to be able to pick a moment. Chanimal still has his unending resolve. This could potentially be a triple kill here for the Superfrogs, but they have to hold on. Anything can happen at this point in the game. Chanimal getting a little low. Cubsy looking to redirect some or reflect some of that damage with the Iron Bark to keep him alive. But Mez getting low. I don't know if Seedu has the healing to keep him alive. I think ultimately Superfrogs will claim game number 1. Unless by some miracle, Mez can still hold on, managing to get out of line of sight. Cubsy throwing in some Solar Wrath, and you can see how comfortable Superfrogs is in this matchup. Cubsy just playing on top of Method Orange, throwing in Solar Wrath, just trying to put the final nail in the coffin, but Method Orange has been doing a good job holding on.
And this is where Chanimal can't get overzealous. If he pushes in too deep, remember, he has no mobility. That is the main weakness here of that Destruction Warlock. He needs to keep his composure. Wealthy Man is the player who can go aggressive with those blinks, as we see him blink in forward. Yes, Wealthy Man, great trinket right there. He's going to drop that Blizzard. He's going to drop the Frozen Orb as well in about 10 seconds when that is ready. As Mez is taking huge chunks of damage here, potentially could go down. Seedu, how are you going to stabilize him?
Yeah, Inferno's just cleaving down all three members of Method Orange. Seedu gets interrupted. Method Orange push in to close out the game, and Mez falls. Method Orange, they need another answer. If they lock that in again, it is suicide in this series.
Superfrogs expected that. They're able to lock in their composition and slowly whittle them down. It takes a lot of dampening to do it, but don't be confused by the dampening there, folks. The Superfrogs were more than comfortable inside of that series. And Supertease, I kind of want to hear from you. What do you think does happen as we move forward in the series? Method Orange now needs to change something.
Well, basically, Superfrogs know that Method Orange's main win condition is Mana Rift, that strategy they've been using throughout this entire year and even last year as well. So the Superfrogs have just crafted a composition that counters Mana Rift. Bringing in the Warlock and the Mage allows you multiple diminishing returns with Fear and Polymorph. So if Trill tries to hunt down Cubsy, constantly looking for Mana Rifts, he sets 3 Fears in a row into 3 Polymorphs in a row into a Frost Nova. Trill can never get any uptime. Cubsy can easily escape. If they try and run Cubsy down and kill him, you've got a Destruction Warlock and a free casting Frost Mage. You're going to die if you try to do that. So they've got them in a checkmate in terms of composition and strategy, which is why we've seen the Superfrogs outdoing Method Orange time and time again. So Method Orange, they need some new tricks if they're going to take down this composition.
And Elliot, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. This is the exact composition that you really did preview for the day. You were saying just how strong this composition really is. What is it about this composition that makes it so strong? Is it because of this particular matchup? Is it the entire meta? Why do you like it so much?
Well, I think it's really strong into what Method Orange has, cleaves in general. You have a Destruction Warlock who is susceptible to being trained down by these cleave setups like the Windwalker Death Knight, but when you bring in a Frost Mage, you have Polymorph to help deny, you have snares as well as the Frost Nova with the roots, and that allows Chanimal a lot more breathing room. In addition to that, with the build that Wealthy Man's playing, he's a very big free casting threat. threat. His Frostbolt Shatter combos are going to be huge with the Frostbolt Flurry Ice Lance, especially playing that Lonely Winter build. So if you go on Chanimal, Wealthy Man is just teeing off on you the entire game. If you go on Wealthy Man to deny the Frostbolts, then you have a Destruction Warlock, which is not what you want to be doing. So I think it's difficult. For Method Orange, though, one thing's for sure, I think they have to play with a Windwalker Monk if they want to take down Chanimal in a matchup like this. Demon Hunter Death Knight, they just don't have the damage. They don't have the healing reduction in order to take Chanimal down, and I just think it's a losing matchup for them. That game looked completely hopeless. They never got one unending resolve. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but Method Orange, they really have to switch it up.
Basically, Method Orange win condition is to have Trill, chase Cubsy, Mana Rift him. Not going to be possible because spammable Fear, Sheep, Novas, he's never actually getting that uptime that he needs to make sure that Cubsy is not getting these drinks. Now, with the Windwalker, you have more damage and you have more pressure. That's the main thing here, and it changes your win condition from, instead of dampening them and kind of trying to run Cubsy out of mana, it allows you to at least stay in the fight. When Sea-Doo dispels a polymorph, and then Wind Shear's the next one, and then Grounding's the next one, it gives Trill enough uptime to actually do significant damage and force out things like the Unending Resolve. Now, with the Demon Hunter, you don't have that same burst damage, so when you have that window where Sea-Doo is essentially giving you a little bit of extra uptime before you get caught up in that CC chain, you're just not doing enough damage to even get the Iron Bark, for the majority of the part. So you need to change it up if you're Method Orange. You need a Windwalker. You need a bursty class for this to work. Otherwise, Super Frogs are just going to walk over Method Orange here if they keep locking in the Demon Hunter.
Also, I think one of the most important things to note as well when you're going into Method Orange, is there anything that you're scared of right now, even the Monk, that prevents Super Frogs from just locking this in on the blind? Like, I feel like that's the thing that's really scary, is Super Frogs, for the most part, should feel fine to lock it in on the blind.
Yeah, I think it's a really good, well-crafted composition like we kind of talked about. It's good against the Cleaves. I just feel like for Method Orange to even have a chance in the series, they need the Windwalker Monk to add that additional single-target damage, the healing reduction, the ability to sort of push in and go all in, because you can trade your Touch of Karma, your Touch of Death, and with those big offensive pushes, that's when you can get the Unending Resolve. And we kind of talked about, for the Destruction Warlock, your Unending Resolve is a really long 3-minute cooldown, so if Trill, Mez, and Sea-Doo can bait that out, and I think I actually like Sea-Doo on this Mistweaver Monk as well. That's going to give them extra offense with that Way of the Crane. The only thing that's difficult is with Chanimal and Wealthy Man having spammable crowd control, Sea-Doo's really going to have to pick his moments in order to get aggressive.
Yeah, Super T's, we've been talking about wanting to see more and more Monks. Now we're going to see one. Sea-Brew coming back, and there were periods where he looked very strong in his Monk, but have we really seen it yet so far in this current meta in BFA?
I don't think so. I think this is the first time we'll see it, and it's not just one Monk, it's two. Trill is switching over as well. I think it's a wise decision, as we've already listed out, adding in the Mortal Wounds effect to reduce incoming healing, adding in much more single target damage, much more threatening damage that Chanimal will not be able to escape later into dampening. This composition in particular was the one that we also saw Never Lucky utilize to much success. Method Orange are phenomenal Windwalker Death Knight players. It then comes into the question of whether or not Sea-Doo can perform on the Mistweaver Monk. We've seen success from Mistweaver Monks in Europe on the same composition, with Looney running it and Drainer also trying to run it. Maybe with the Warrior variants, I think in this situation the Windwalker is definitely superior. They've set themselves up on a good map. They've set themselves up with a good comp. Now it all comes down to execution.
It is going to come down to just that, but also it does seem like we have a squad here in the Super Frogs that have figured out an answer. There was a period in time where what Method Orange had seemed completely unbeatable. I mean, jump in a time machine for a second, folks. We're back at week 1. Method Orange doesn't even make it to broadcast. Then after week 2, all of a sudden they start picking up steam, and they look fantastic. It's been a while since we've really looked at Trill's Monk. Obviously, we have seen it here or there, but that wasn't the focus. It was all around that Demon Hunter, and it took off for them. They were able to fly with that composition, but slowly we see the likes of Colo trying to find ways to beat that composition. We see teams in Europe find ways to beat the composition. Super Frogs now have another answer, and they are trying to find match point.
Yeah, and I think objectively speaking for Sea-Doo, the Mistweaver Monk is probably his second best healer overall. And obviously Resto Shaman being the #1, but very well practiced. We were actually playing with him yesterday. So he was trying to prepare Mistweaver Monk for this tournament. Super Frogs, with this composition, though, are going to be able to really punish him, especially playing Way of the Crane. If he pushes in, then Chanimal can land a Fear. Wealthy Man can land a Polymorph. They're going to be able to deny a lot of that aggressive play What I want to see from Method Orange is punish Wealthy Man's Frozen Orb and Blizzard positioning. So if Trill and Mez push in, and Wealthy Man decides to drop out of Frozen Orb or Blizzard to try to counter pressure, that's when Sea-Doo can comfortably use the Way of the Crane, move on top of that Blizzard or Frozen Orb positioning. Then all of a sudden there's no threat of being polymorphed because it will just break to the Blizzard or Frozen Orb damage, and that's what I want to see from Method Orange.
Method Orange gripping Wealthy Man into their clutches downstairs. Cubsy repositions and immediately is able to recover. Method Orange are playing it for the slow and steady game. Just avoid the spellcasters as long as possible, then go for big wave pushes on what I would expect is the Warlock deeper into dampening. Now, the Super Frogs can utilize Snuts later in the series on Shadow Priest if that situation occurs where the Warlock just becomes a liability deeper into dampening. It's too difficult for Channel to get pressure out with those hard-casted Chaos Bolts, too easy to avoid. The Shadow Priest would be a much better utilized specialization in this particular matchup, and everything can come down to the blind pick. If the Super Frogs can utilize the Shadow Priest on the big maps and swing it back and forth to a Game 5, then they're going to walk away with the series. Method Orange really want to avoid a third place or a fourth place finish in terms of point standings. Definitely want to get a second place or a first place, because if you can do that, you will then dodge Method Black from Europe. You'll dodge Wildcard Gaming in the initial round, which is, I won't say 100%, but pretty likely guarantee that you'll be sent down to the lower bracket very fast. So there's a lot on the line for Method Orange here. If they can manage to pull off a victory, advance further on, eliminate the boys, pass them as their next line of competition in terms of points, get a second place finish to qualify to that LAN, their seeding will be upgraded phenomenally.
Nice ring of peace there by Trill, pinning Wealthy Man against the wall. Really high level play there. If you can get a target perfectly lined up with a wall like that, he actually doesn't go left or right. He just gets stuck up against the wall over and over. And if you can position it right, that's a great opportunity for you to put some damage out onto a particular target. And I think Method Orange doing that strategy a little bit later on when dampening's higher, it's going to be difficult for Wealthy Man to recover. So look for them to do that. And they can do the same thing to Chanimal. If they grip Chanimal out of line of sight, and he gets pinned up against the wall, it's going to be difficult for him to get out those fears that he really needs, or the Shadow Fury that he really needs in order to survive. So I think if Method Orange can execute that, it's definitely going to help them win this game.
Method and Orange staying on the outskirts of Dalaran sewers. They actually catch Sea-Doo in a bit of a swap. Big Chaos Bolt flies in. Anti-Magic Zone exchanged for no cooldowns committed by the Super Frogs. Method Orange need to be careful. They can't afford to be caught like that again. Sea-Doo fake casting the incoming spell lock. Needs to be careful because there's two of them. Mez and Trill trying to march forward for a death grip. There's the counter spell secured by Wealthy Man. This could be dangerous, potentially. Frozen Orb. Chanimal too far out of position really to capitalize on any of the plays that Wealthy Man was able to engage on. I'm curious to see if Chanimal repositions his demonic gateway so that a team member has an escape. Ring of Peace bounces Wealthy Man off the side, but he's able to immediately blink. Now gripped and stunned downstairs. Cubsy jumps in, needs to save him. Will it be enough? Do they even need to Iron Park? It doesn't look like it. Wealthy Man's just going to blink to safety. Blizzard Mez hold him out in the open. The difficult part about this for Method Orange is that deeper into dampening, Mez doesn't have the same mobility as the two monks on his team, so he'll be left behind, and without Death Strike being super potent that deep into dampening, he is likely to go down. So Method Orange eventually need to start coordinating their assaults. Obviously, they would like a little bit of dampening in their favor as well to try and push Chanimal over. We see Chanimal reposition the Demonic Gateway. I'm curious if Method Orange are going to rotate around the outskirt of the map to try and avoid it, or if they're just going to play at these boxes. Seems difficult for the Super Frogs to really get anything going. Wealthy Man gets Ring of Peace off the side. He blinks, but he blinks into enemy territory. Now has to double blink. I'm very surprised to not see Method Orange just run Wealthy Man down after double blinking. They grip him downstairs. Good position to burst him down. Wealthy Man knows that he's overcommitted, so he activates Temporal Shield before anything even starts to hit him as soon as he's in a bad position. Chanimal setting up for Chaos Bolts. Sea-Doo pre-Life Cocoons. That was a very preemptive move. No cooldowns committed by the Super Frogs. Method Orange continue to run away, looking for a deep dampening push. Cubsy catches Mez. Ray of Frost, Chaos Bolt combo. A lot of damage for Mez. First to down, but immediately healed back up by Sea-Doo.
Yep, and Method Orange will be able to survive. So far, Method Orange, they've been playing very non-committal. They're gripping in Wealthy Man, getting stuns on him, but never really committing to pushing him over, forcing out more than just a temporal shield. And I can tell by Trill's talents, he is playing the Tiger Eye Brew specialization. He just wants to build that up, get it to 20 stacks, and that will give him 2 10-second windows where he can push in and get super aggressive on Chanimal. And if they can do that, especially later on in dampening, they can easily run him down. Wealthy Man getting bursted down just a little bit. I like what Method Orange is doing. They're making sure to at least punish Wealthy Man a little bit when he's making these aggressive pushes, but with the way Method Orange is playing, I think it's really unlikely that they end up taking Wealthy Man down. More than likely, we're going 30-40% dampening. Then that is when Trill, Mez, and Sea-Doo will be making offensive pushes, just trying to run Chanimal over, take him down through everything he has.
All right, Cubsy is running a really just a standard defensive build on his Restoration Druid. No Feral Affinity shenanigans, focusing on haste and mastery. No surprises. Nourish as the honor talent of choice here when playing with 2 spellcasters, as the team of Method Orange don't have enough interrupts to deny 3 players from casting important spells, so Nourish is of high importance in this specific matchup. I do like that he's mixed in 1 Lively Spirit onto his Azerite traits to gain back some extra mana during Innervate, as mana is the name of the game currently in this meta. 1 triple Grove Tending, Rampant Growth for an extra heal over time effect. Cubsy's maximizing his gear for the most health per second, which is exactly what he needs when facing down a melee cleave. Chanimal finally starting to get in there, dropping some Infernals, trying to burst Sea-Doo down. Sea-Doo makes an exchange with that Fortified Elixir and Life Cocoon. Mez, though, gets left behind, and see how devastating that was. 15% dampening. That happens again, another 15% more dampening, and even though Super Frogs do not have the map advantage, I think compositionally they still might outdo Method Orange.
I just don't know. I feel like Method Orange, when they do decide to finally push in and commit everything, Chanimal is going to have a really difficult time counter-pressuring, especially now that the Infernals are on a 3-minute timer. What I want to see from Mez and Trill, actually grip in Chanimal, beautifully done. Ring of Peace plus a Death Grip, knock Chanimal off the side, but Cubsy in a great position to back him up. Wealthy Man as well. Sea-Doo tries to slow down some crowd control from Wealthy Man with his paralysis, does manage to do so, but it looks like now that 20% dampening, Method Orange is going to be looking to get aggressive here on the Chanimal. Ironbark going to be basically held for now from Cubsy, but Chanimal getting low. He gets interrupted. Could just easily get taken down. Do they have the damage? Ironbark and Unending Resolve. Everything forced out. Trill still has the touch of death. Method Orange in a great position to close out this game.
Mez getting counter-pressured. Sea-Doo tries to rush in and save the day with 3 members now attacking Chanimal and no defense for some time. The defense could finally be cracked. They may be able to finally push through. They need to crowd control Cubsy. Deny his heals. He's getting too many Nourishes off in the back line. They grip Chanimal out of line of sight. Cubsy tries to reposition. Sea-Doo intercepts. Chanimal still low on health, but Wealthy Man is taking control of Sea-Doo, which means Mez could be vulnerable. They're still trying to control Cubsy and go for the kill. A risky exchange, but they've got multiple defensives to make this risky push. They need to continue to stop continue to interrupt Cubsy. He's getting far too many Nourish casts off. These Nourishes are stabilizing Chanimal. Mez now has to exchange Icebound Fortitude, a precious defensive cooldown on the Death Knight lineup. Both teams in trouble as dampening continues to ramp.
Definitely, but Chanimal with no Unending Resolve for another 3 minutes. Another beautiful attempt here by Method Orange. Mez grips Cubsy in, double leg sweep committed. Cubsy getting a little bit low, and his mana isn't great. He's been throwing out a lot of Nourishes like you kind of talked about. He's almost completely tapped on mana, whereas Sea-Doo, he's doing great. Method Orange playing into their win condition beautifully. Chanimal still getting low. Paralysis on Cubsy, Ring of Peace out of line of sight of Chanimal as Mez is still ripping in. 1 Gladiator's Maledict connects though from Chanimal as they're looking to counter pressure Mez. Asphyxiate stun on Cubsy. The crowd control isn't over, and Super Frogs, they have to hold on.
Right, Chanimal and Mez both in danger, but Mez has cooldowns to exchange and Chanimal doesn't. The damage is starting to overwhelm the Super Frogs deep into dampening. Cubsy's got a couple of seconds with free healing, having activated that Innervate, but even still may not be able to Chanimal. Chanimal gets knocked off the side. Cubsy has to reposition once again. He's losing healing time. Will Chanimal fall? 10 seconds away from that Ironbark if they can hold out a tad bit longer. Full Polymorph secured onto Sea-Doo. An opportunity for the Super Frogs to battle back. Mez respects that. Actually, they switched to Sea-Doo, trying to catch him overextended in midfield. He trades out and survives, retreating back to the pillar. Defense now available for Cubsy. Mana, though, not looking too great. Way of the Crane gets popped. Sea-Doo's ready to close this. Crowd control on the Cubsy. Ironbark needs to be enough, but will it at 33% dampening? Ring of Peace interrupts Polymorph. Mez follows it up with a Mind Freeze. Can they they keep denying the crowd control long enough to put Chanimal down. Sea-Doo gets veered away. Trill gets polyed on his touch of death. This is a big push for Trill. He really wants to get a kill in this timing. Will they be able to find it? If they don't, Chanimal is going to have that unending resolve in just a few seconds. Mez is now the one falling behind.
Yep, Mez grips Chanimal out of line of sight. Wealthy Man with a fully channeled Ray of Frost gets Mez low. What is Sea-Doo going to do? Life Cocoon in 2 seconds. To keep Mez alive. 1 Chaos Bolt lands. Mez does survive off the back of that Life Cocoon from Sea-Doo, but Wealthy Man with the Icy Veins is going to have a huge offensive push here shortly. Right now, Method Orange, they've lost a lot of their pressure on Chanimal. Super Frogs has been doing a great job to deny, but look at Cubsy. He's out of mana. Sea-Doo's still healthy, over 60% mana, and I gotta say, Sea-Doo's mana management in this matchup so far has been impeccable.
Infernals, Icy Veins available. How are you going to survive, Method Orange? Super Frogs look to put them on match point on their best map and the comp advantage, or a comp advantage you would expect. Chanimal has survived long enough to get Unending Resolve. Will he activate it and go for the kill? He does! Aggressive Unending Resolve. Wave the Crane should deny it. Is it going to? Mez is still low. Double Ring of Peace. Chanimal pinned downstairs, out of line of sight. Cubsy tries to move over in desperation, but there's nothing standing between the kill right now. Cubsy's got 0 mana left in the tank, and Method Orange are going to tie this up 1-1, but having won the blind pick means that Super Frogs can dictate the pace of the series.
Sure, definitely going to be an important thing, but we do need to note that is this going to be something that's straight up counterable now that we have seen Method change? Do we expect this to be one of those Game 5 situations like Sid did just allude to?
I think Shadow Priest Mage is good against this composition that that Method Orange are running right now. I think the map is also a pretty good factor. I think we're going to see a large map, and we might see Snuts tagged in on that Shadow Priest in the following match. And honestly, I think Sea-Doo should have ran Trinket as well instead of that Relentless. If your strategy is essentially to stall until dampening, and then when dampening comes, do that a big push, then you may as well just Trinket while you have Way of the Crane active and really get that value out. I feel like Chanimal would have died a lot sooner. With that said though, really great mana management from Sea-Doo, and also that double Ring of Peace at the end of that one was really nice. They used one to knock Chanimal closer to the edge there, and then they used the second Ring of Peace to knock him out of line of sight from Cubsy, shutting down any healing, shutting down Wealthy Man's ability to save him, to save Chanimal as well. So really nicely executed there, despite that Trinket choice.
All right, last series of the day, 2 of our top contenders from a region, and it's all tied up. Just one more series left today, folks. One of these teams going home, one of them making it to tomorrow, Championship Sunday, where we will crown 2 teams for Cup number 5, one from EU, one from NA to reign supreme, and it's getting down to the wire. So this one is very important. At this point, we really kind of expect that we know most of the teams that will make it through to the first LAN of the year, and both of these teams are teams that we do expect. So in this matchup, how important is this kind of for the rest of the year, Zico?
It's very important for multiple reasons. Number one, of course, if we just look short term, you want Method Orange to get to the final so that they can get that seeding for the Spring LAN, where they can potentially dodge Wildcard Gaming as well as Method Black from Europe. Because of how the seeding works, the number 1 team from Europe faces the number 4 team from NA, the number 2 team faces number 3 team, and right now Method Orange is that number 3 team, so they're looking on a collision course against Wildcard Gaming, and this of course isn't that unexpected here. We're going to see Asherman's fall, a large map get locked in, but we also are going to see Super Frogs switch up their composition. And one more thing, because you asked about the entire year, is basically the more points you have, if you're the number 1 team on points, you will get an automatic qualification to the World Finals later on, which is of course what all of these teams want. So getting a consistently high placing in these cups is going to help you in the long run as well, not just for the Spring LAN. But I do think that it's interesting that Super Frogs picks this map and goes ahead and switches their composition. I think Method Orange did a wise choice here, sticking on this composition. And I actually think the comp that Method Orange are running, I think it counters what Super Frogs are running here.
Okay, so that could be a big boon for Method Orange if they can roll through here. But just to touch on what you were saying about points for the entirety of the year, because when you think about it, it is probably the most important thing. Obviously, getting to LAN is very important, but you don't know how your region is going to perform at LAN. That's the crazy factor, right? You could have a team that comes out like we saw Reform come out last year, right? A team that thrives on one patch. They come out, they win a LAN. That's one spot gone. You get to the second LAN, and your region just bombs. If your region doesn't do well, that is not removing other top 4 teams out of that pool. So you're completely reliant on those points. So as much as the push for that top 4 is crucial, so you have the chance at LAN, being number 1 is just by far the most important thing, and SuperFrogs already have that accolade in the bank. They're just trying to hold on to it.
Yeah, and things are really looking good for them here, but I have to agree with Zico. I feel like the composition Method Orange picked is really good into what SuperFrogs are running. When we've seen these teams go head-to-head in the past, SuperFrogs was able to sneak away with some quick wins with all-ins onto Trill. I feel like Method Orange didn't manage their defensive cooldowns appropriately in those games, so if they clean that up, play a little bit better defensively like we saw in that last game, and against the Bakery Cleave, I feel like Method Orange is positioning themselves quite nicely in this series. I have to wonder why SuperFrogs didn't opt to go with the Shadow Priest Mage, because I feel like that would be their best composition on this map against what Method Orange is running. So we'll have to see, did they make a mistake here on Ashtravane's Fall?
Super Tease, do you think that there is any reason that they're shying away from that composition?
I think it's because of their previous success with this composition, but at the same time, I think it was off the back of the mistakes of the previous Windwalker Death Knight Mistweavers they've played, because compositionally on paper, I don't think they should win this matchup. It makes a lot more sense for them to play the Shadow Priest Mage, which they've already had success with, especially on the large maps such as Tolvaron. Maybe they can blind lock the Rogue Warlock when they don't know what's coming their way, but when they know what's happening, it's very surprising to see them give this away, because this is their swing match.
Yeah.
If Method Orange win this, then we go to game 5. Method Orange can go small map and take them out. So
it seems weird to leave that composition in the shadows. Zico, when we do look at that composition, you have to be thinking if whether or not it is the individual performances that they have had, or if it comes down to them thinking maybe we can just run away with this one. But all of our desk right now currently saying that they believe Method Orange has the compositional advantage here. Swing matchup is what we like to call this one, because it is really where the momentum can potentially change. When you look at each of these series, getting that first win gives you that chance to go back and forth with comps. So ultimately, when you get to game 5, you get to pick the map, you get to pick your composition after seeing the other team's comp. It's a very important thing. Game 3 has the stakes a little bit higher. Whoever takes this one will be on match point.
all right, here we go. This is an elimination, best of 5. We're all tied up here, and the SuperFrogs may have locked in a composition that could lose them their swing match advantage. We're going to have to see exactly how it plays out. I will say that them playing this Warlock, Rogue, Restoration Druid is at a top level. I would say the best arguably in the world right now. So even though they are at a disadvantage, if a team could overcome that disadvantage, it would certainly be Chanimal, Snuts, and Cubsy. Chanimal setting up for some huge burst here, ramping up with that Rain of Fire, rolling his Grimoire of Supremacy. Mez says, all right, I know that that is a scary moment in the game, so I'm going to try and run away, but he gets caught. Chanimal moves in. Chaos Bolt gets casted. Mind Frozen. Good denial by Mez. How much more can he deny it? Chanimal still ramping, holding onto the Dark Soul, not going for it just yet, looking to split those cooldowns up. Similarly to what we've seen from the move, it does appear to be of importance to split up your Dark Soul, your Infernal, and your Vendetta into 3 separate windows to find a kill, to make your opponents overextend their defensive lineup and then get a kill with one of those 3 options later on. Here's a blind play by Snuts. Not even getting a Gladiator's Medallion from Sidu. Interesting that they're attacking Mez. Trill expected the attack to be on him. He preemptively fortified Elixir. I'm very surprised to see them target Mez so much. Maybe they're just looking for some 2-pronged attacks. Trill is likely to be the main priority before dampening. We do see Trill being overly cautious, and the reason for that is so that Sidu can comfortably sit through an extended crowd control chain, but Chanimal keeps it going with a spell lock. Mez gets bursted down. This is the most pressure we've really seen put on a Death Knight. I mean, Chanimal sniped Valido earlier in the day. There is potential for that. Snuts now gets gripped and overextended. Cubsy jumps in to save. Looks like it will be enough for him to survive. Now with Thorns activated, Mez and Trill have to make a decision. Do we attack into Thorns or do we just chill for a bit? And it looks like they're going to switch targets, which is also a great solution to that Thorns.
Yeah, and Trill has actually opted to drop out of that Tiger Eye brew, which I think is one of the most important talents in this particular matchup. So that says to me, Method Orange, they're going to be looking to pressure down Snuts a lot in this matchup. Now, Sea-Doo into a kidney shot. What is Channel going to be able to get done? Not too much. Sea-Doo is out of line of sight. Sea-Doo, though, activating his fortifying brew, as well as the way the Crane looking to make a push. Trill getting low. What is he going to do? Channel looking for a Chaos Bolt, manages to find it, but Trill is able to survive. Way the Crane will heal everyone up. Trill a little bit vulnerable, but a big offensive push here on the Chanimal. Has to trade out his Unending Resolve. Now the kitty shot on Trill and Fear on Sea-Doo. Method Orange, they're going to have to be very careful.
I mean, Trill looks like he's going all in. He's got Touch of Karma. I'm surprised to not even see the Touch of Death. He had a window here where Ironbark isn't available. I'm very surprised to not see the Touch of Death and push during that window of time. They grip Cubsy in. They stun him. It's looking good for Method Orange to maybe close this out early on, which would be unexpected. Cubsy also getting cleaved down a tad bit. Anti-Magic Zone is allowing Mez and Trill to stay aggressive. It answers the Dark Soul. Chanimal's trying to move out of the defense of that shield, so if Trill overextends to hit him, he loses the defense of that barrier. Trill says, okay, time to abandon that push. Attack Snuts at the pillar with Sea-Doo. Wait for the next wave of the Crane. If they can manage to bait out an Ironbark and then push with Way of the Crane, they could kill Chanimal within the next minute.
Yep, definitely. Chanimal with really great positioning with Cubsy, but Snuts might be getting a little over-aggressive in this matchup. It is his job, though, to push in and making sure that Method Orange is still spending mana. Sea-Doo right now is behind in terms of mana over Cubsy. Trill and Mez looking for pressure on a Chanimal as he got gripped into around the pillar, and that is not exactly the position you want to be in. Abomination gets used by Mez as he's looking to put out huge pressure on Chanimal. And keep in mind, Chanimal with no Unending Resolve is going to be very vulnerable. Trill held onto his Touch of Death as well, now with no Ironbark, as well as no Unending Resolve. Method Orange have a huge offensive push. If Sea-Doo can get an effective Way of the Crane, they might be able to push Chanimal over the edge.
Oh no, but they're getting clotheslined right at the finish line. Trill gets bursted. He could go down 3 seconds away. Sea-Doo Trinkets denies the kill. I would love to see just Method Orange go all out here. Sea-Doo's on Fear Diminishing Return. Press the Way of the Crane and crush Chanimal. You've got 30 seconds to do it. You've got all of these aggressive cooldowns that boost your damage up. They need to do it. This is a huge missed opportunity. 24 seconds now away. They have all the crowd control available. They have all the damage available. What are they waiting for? They go for the stun. They need to Way of the Crane. Why is Sea-Doo running away? This is still 14 seconds away from it. They go for the Touch of Death, but they don't push for the kill. Now Sea-Doo is off Diminishing Return. His Trinket is not lined up with Blind. Blind is now a huge win condition for the Super Frogs, and that was an opportunity lost.
Yeah, definitely, but Sea-Doo with no Trinket available could have been a little bit scared, especially with Infernal Stun. If he got Kidney Shot into an Infernal Stun and no Anti-Magic Zone, it could have been devastating. Snuts in a little bit of trouble, though. Has to trade out the evasion. He does have the Vendetta, who is a good opening for him. As, of course, for the Anti-Magic Zone, will be able to deny a lot of that damage. Still seems like Trill is the main focus point for Super Frogs in this matchup as we enter Dampening, now at 2%. Cubsy once again has been able to sneak away, get drinks, completely reset his mana. Sea-Doo not doing too bad though, still around 50%. Method Orange have been finding really good pressure, keeping Chanimals relatively low. Now Chanimal with the Dark Soul, what is he going to be able to get done?
Chanimal gets stunned on it. Snuts makes a swap, looking to take Sea-Doo out. Anti-Magic Zone will protect during this critical moment in the match, but Mez and Trill can't benefit from it. It's too far away. Trill tries to by pulling back, but then Sea-Doo moved in while Trill was running away. It seems to be a bit of a miscommunication. Sea-Doo's Way of the Crane not getting too much value here as he's getting completely denied by Chanimal. Way of the Crane will now be fading. Definitely not a high value push for Method Orange.
Definitely not getting too much done right there. Chanimal with the Unending Resolve is going to be feeling relatively safe, but like we kind of saw from Method Orange in the last game, if they can make one good offensive push, they can get through every single defensive cooldown Super Frogs has available. In the last game, it took around 30% dampening for that to start happening. And some of the self-healing that the Destruction Warlock has available gets limited. That's when it becomes really scary as a Destruction Warlock to play against a Windwalker Death Knight, especially when they have defensive cooldowns to trade out for an all-in.
Trill under fire. Sea-Doo almost tapped on mana, and even though we said that Method Orange's composition was favored, Super Frogs are playing the matchup out immaculately as Trill falls behind, tries to portal away. That Maledict gets diffused off. Still fairly low on health, managing to recover. Snuts is now going after Sea-Doo. Sea-Doo rolls in. He's only got a couple more Way of the Cranes left in the tank to make a push, and there's not really any clear openings as far as a target. Sea-Doo now Mortal Coiled into a Kidney Shot. Perfect play by Super Frogs as they look to try and take down Sea-Doo. Bash to follow up. Dire Safeguard and Life Cocoon save Cedo, but now Life Cocoon isn't available for his team. He still needs to heal himself and his teammates back to full. There's likely a spell lock available here for Chanimal. If he can nail this spell lock on Cedo, Way of the Crane to try and avoid it. Chanimal needs to get control of this Way of the Crane. He unending resolves at full health. I actually don't mind this. It trades for the Way of the Crane and the Touch of Death. It's a 2-for-1 exchange. But now he won't have access to that defense later on. Cedo still has enough mana in the tank for one more Way of the Crane. If Super Frogs can survive that last Way of the Crane, I think they're going to take it.
I mean, it was a 2-for-1 exchange, but at the same time, Cubsy committed his Iron Bark, and now there's no defense left for Super Frogs. If Trill and Mez can stay on target, Chanimal could be in a little bit of trouble. Infernals drop out, though. They're trying to get aggressive, get some counter pressure rolling. Trill in a little trouble. Chaos Bolt looking to land, gets Nos done by Mez. Nicely done, denying Chanimal's damage as he's trying to get behind the pillar. All three members of Method Orange are line sighting right now, and that's not what you want as a Destruction Warlock. Chanimal with a beautiful Shadow Fury, looking to find some damage. Mez once again gets really big value out of that anti-magic zone, not only trading with Snuts' Vendetta, but also the tail end of that Dark Soul from Chanimal.
I feel like time and time again, Cedo's team is like just on the near-death experience of a triple kill and then somehow manages to hold on and then reverse it. This is looking to be like one of those situations. Smoke Bomb gets dropped, Trill in trouble. 1 second left on the stun, Touch of Karma exchange there. Does Cedo have the mana to Way of the Crane? They need it for a push. If they can manage to get an Iron Bark here and then go for Way of the Crane, they can get a kill. I just don't think Cedo has the mana left to do it. Snuts is ripping in. They do grip Cubsy into the fight, but no stun. Paralysis, they need a stun. Cedo moves over, he gets the leg sweep. But Mez and Trill get Mortal Coiled away. Cedo then feared off that. Mez gets bursted. Dampening is ramping up. He's going to become a liability later into the fight. Chanimal still with limited defense. They get the Iron Bark, but it was on the Way of the Crane. This Iron Bark needs to be enough. Will it? 24% dampening. Chanimal's getting overwhelmed. Snuts is getting pressured as well. 2 members low. Cubsy has mana, and Cedo doesn't. That may be the #1 factor for the Super Frogs to find victory here on Ashamains. Chanimal stun locked up, and it's going to be a race to the finish.
Uh-oh. Touch of Death gets committed by Trill. They can take down Chanimal. Here's the stun. What are they going to do? Method Orange, can they hold on? Trill's getting lower. Are they going to be able to take him down? Beautiful Shadow Step kick by Snuts, and he ends up taking down Trill. Nicely done by the Super Frogs, winning on Ashamain's Fall. I didn't think this composition was favorable, but they made that look pretty good.
Exactly. That's basically my question right now for Zico. What was it about this composition that allowed a win? I know there was some skepticism when we initially do see it in the when we see it in the draft. How's it look now that we've actually got a chance to feast our eyes upon it?
I just feel like on mana, Method Orange just fell way too far behind. Before dampening, typically when we see Mistweaver, Windwalker DK go up against these Warlock-based compositions, they can hold on to their mana a little bit better, and this is really the critical point in the game. If Method Orange can stay in here with that Way of the Crane and really get that damage going here, Chanimal could easily go down here, and you can see Cubsy is just spamming Nourish after Nourish, basically carrying the team here, and Snuts of course been able to apply so much damage and pressure with that kick there towards the end as well, and that's what it comes down to. If Cedo just manages to have a little bit better mana management like he did in the previous match, all of a sudden Method Orange have enough pressure to stay in there and seal the deal. This time around they had to abort the mission basically.
So is this the blind lock again in your mind for the Super Frogs?
What else do they have? I would honestly, I would go with Shadow Priest Mage. I still think Shadow Priest Mage is better, but on a smaller map, maybe they could go with this. I think locking this comp in blind is fine because it answers fairly well against the Demon Hunter DK as well. Locking it in just as a counter when they know what they're up against, I'm not a big fan of that.
Okay, so you're fine with it on the blind. That's probably a pretty good feeling for them. I think map is going to be pretty key here, though, if we do take this to a smaller map.
Yeah, I think so as well, and this may have been the matchup that Method Orange was looking to avoid in game #1. Potentially that's why they did lock in that Demon Hunter Death Knight, is they wanted a better answer for the Roguelock Druid. So I think if Super Frogs locks in Roguelock Druid, it's likely we're going to be going back to the Method Orange bread and butter composition, that Death Knight, Demon Hunter, looking for mana rifts, try to get the win condition that way. So I think it's hard for the Super Frogs. What are they going to blind pick? I think the Shadow Priest Mage is pretty good against basically everything and has a really good shot.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things is the lack of mana rifts that we've actually seen so far in the series.
Didn't Never Lucky win one game against this composition from Super Frogs when they played the same comp that Method Orange is playing in that second to last game, and then Super Frogs went with the Shadow Priest Mage?
Yeah, that's how it went. On Dalaran Series, I believe. That's why I'm surprised they didn't run the Shadow Priest Mage.
Yeah, that's why I'm surprised as well that they actually ran Roguelock Druid and they actually got away with it as well. I feel like Method Orange are better at Mistweaver, DK, Windwalker. If you compare like Zach versus Trill, especially on that Windwalker, knowing that Trill mained it and played it up on the BlizzCon stage, and Zach fairly new still to the class. But I mean, it worked out for them. They had a great pressure. They had a good map selection as well, of course. Just food for thought.
Yeah, but you guys still, that's really what I've been trying to uncover. I feel like you guys still really do feel like it. This was Super Frogs getting away potentially with their pick.
Yep.
They get the win, but not necessarily convinced that it was the right line of play. And that's going to be very important as we see the map getting locked in right now in our series here. And Method Orange, I'm really curious what they do go for here. I really am. Sid, what do you think the map pick's going to be?
Blackrock Hold, my expectation, and then blind lock in. I wasn't predicting the Rogue Warlock when they knew the counter, so that's even more difficult to really assess. I think we go Blackrock Hold, and I think they do Rogue Lock Druid again, and then Method Orange run their DHDK, and they'll do the Mana Rift strategy. The Mana Rift strategy only doesn't work against the Mage Warlock. Against the Rogue Warlock, the Mana Rift strategy still works. So if Method Orange see that's coming their way, and then we'll go to a game 5. That's where we expect to see Tolvaron Arena, because Ashamane was locked in, so Tolvaron will get locked in. Then Method Orange have to say, okay, how do we do this? Because what if Snuts comes in on Shadow Priest, and they have to overcome that disadvantage that they lost by losing the blind pick?
So you think we're getting some mana suction this time around?
Yeah, I think this game.
And then you think that this one goes the way of Method Orange, then we get to that game 5, and ultimately the Super Frogs should be able, with their pick, to be able to navigate their way to Championship Sunday. Well, we're going to be finding out very shortly here. Currently, the Super Frogs are going to be doing their blind pick, and Method Orange will be able to respond here. Zico, do you think that there's any chance that the Super Frogs try to block out that Mana Rift strategy? Do you think that maybe we see what they actually did bring in that first game? Do they bring the Warlock? Do they bring the Mage?
Now that we know what map it is, I think they could potentially bring that in, but
Why did they go with Tiger's Peak?
Not sure.
I mean, it's middle of the road, but
Yeah,
they
honestly,
could have got something that was just better for themselves.
I feel like with this pick, we should rename Method Orange to Method Bananas, because this pick's bananas.
Orange, you glad you said banana?
I already used that one. I needed something. I needed something. I really needed something there, and it didn't work. But I don't think this map pick's going to work either, Zico.
yeah, yep, this pick is like Van's tie, a banana. That's on the same level, Rich.
It's not a banana.
It's not a banana, silly.
It's a tie.
Long day here at the AWC desk. But I don't really get why they went for this map pick. Can you think of any reasons?
Maybe they don't want to be revealing exactly what matchup that they want. Super Frogs now, they have to decide, do we go with the Shadow Priest Mage, which I think can get answered by the Demon Hunter Death Knight.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's just Method Orange, they don't want to be giving away too much information. I think they have answers for everything Super Frogs has available, so they're just letting Super Frogs sort of pick their poison at this point, not trying to give Super Frogs any sort of map advantage whatsoever as well, because maybe Super Frogs, if it was a smaller map, there's certain compositions they could lock in to have better odds against Method Orange, so I think that's what they're going to be looking at.
I love this pick.
Yeah, they're more afraid of the Mana Rift strategy. But now if you're Method Orange, you go Windwalker, Death Knight, Mistweaver, and just overwhelm Chanimal and Dampening.
Yep, I think we're going to see the Mistweaver Windwalker DK locked in from Method Orange. And on that little ramp on the side where the shadow side spawns, that's where we're most likely going to see Method Orange. Just stay there, grip in Chanimal. If he gets too close, wait a little bit for dampening, and then they're probably going to try to go in, push them over again, like we saw on Dalaran Sewers. The big criticism I have for Method Orange from their gameplay that game was Sedu's Trinket choice. I want to see him go with the Gladiator's Medallion, not the Relentless. If you're going for an all-in aggressive strategy like that, just play Trinket, activate Way of the Crane, try to crowd control one person who can throw out those CC chains. In this case, probably Chanimal, because you're going to be activating all your offense onto him, and then you can just trinket one of the polymorphs, and that way you get a lot of uptime with that Way of the Crane. So I want to see him do that. The Relentless, not really that beneficial in my opinion. And then yeah, when Dampening hits critical mass, we can see them run Chanimals over, take it to game 5, where, like Sid mentioned, we could see something like a Tulveron, and maybe Snuts get tagged in. And they are going to look in the Mistweaver, DK, Windwalker.
All right, yeah, this one really does look like it has the potential to go to game 5, and I don't think there's too much surprise there when you know the caliber and the pedigree of these teams and what they are playing for. Like, these are squads right now that are fighting for first place in a big way for the entirety of the region, but the thing that's more imminent is going to be the fact that LAN is coming up, and they want to make sure that they have the best seeding possible, and Super Frogs is just trying to defend the throne time and time again.
Yeah, I mean, they want to have the most points in the region, like we kind of talked about. If you are the #1 point earner, it doesn't even matter that you, I mean, it matters that you're qualifying to LAN, but there's no longer that added burden of having to win a LAN tournament. You're just going to be able to qualify from having the most points and doing the best in the various cups. So Super Frogs wanting to hold on to that lead. For Method Orange, they need to start soaking up a little bit more points so they can inevitably dodge Method Black and Wildcard Gaming in the first round of the spring finals, because going up against one of those two teams is not ideal. You'd much rather be in a position where you have to go up against a team like Change My Mind or ABC, who hasn't been nearly as dominant.
There are a lot of shenanigans that can potentially happen too based off of who wins LAN. Like, imagine if everything stays the same. Imagine if this picture that you have on your screen right now, these standings are what happens after the LAN. Obviously, we have all of the scores that are going to happen tomorrow, and then we have cup number 6, which is also going to add some points. But if the Super Frogs win the LAN, all of a sudden the boys are the #1 team in NA, right? You can kind of take that team out of your mind. That's going to be a very big factor to think about. If you are an NA team, even if you don't win, you obviously want to be the team that wins, but you want to see North America win when you get to the LAN, because that really does benefit you quite a bit, especially if that team is in front of you on the standings currently.
I mean, if we just use an example, let's say we get to the spring finals, Super Frogs wins the cup, or yeah, they win the spring finals, and all of a sudden the boys is in a position where they're going to be the #1 point earning team. So like you said, soaking up those spots, trying to win those LAN tournaments for your region is going to allow potentially more teams to go from that region. And I think that is definitely important, but something that can potentially also just be completely out of your control.
It's completely out of your control. And we've also seen quite a bit that some of the squads are in a position now where there are things that are out of their control. We look at teams like Never Lucky, potentially, like The Move. The Move still has quite a bit of destiny juice in their hands that they can fling across the arena.
Destiny juice?
Yeah.
What is that? I kind of want some.
The Rich Campbell Destiny juice line? You coming out with some merch, Rich?
Super Frogs right now going to be leading in this series 2-1. If they're able to take this, they will be able to make it to Sunday and send Method Orange home where they already are.
Yep, this is definitely a series where there's a lot on the line. It could be potentially the last game of the day. Definitely the last series of the day. What is the Super Frogs going to be able to do? Although this is Method Orange compositional pick as well as map pick, I still feel like the Super Frogs, this isn't too bad for them. We did see Chanimal be taken down off the back of 2 beautiful Ring of Pieces in the last game of Dalaran Sewers when these two teams met with these comps, and I think if Chanimal can avoid a situation like that, then Cubsy might be able to keep him alive. I also think on this map, Cubsy is going to be able to maintain his mana much better, which was a huge win condition for Method Orange, and inevitably why Super Frogs fell in Dalaran.
All right, Method Orange employing that defensive strategy, looking for a late game kill to overwhelm Chanimal. When employing this strategy, Sidhu needs to maximize his mana efficiency so that he has basically as much as possible in dampening, so he gets as many Way of the Cranes as he can deeper into dampening. They have been getting good setups on Wealthy Man, gripping him at the pillar and punishing him when he overextends. In this exchange, have managed to overlap Temporal Shield and Iron Bark. That is an opening in terms of defensive cooldowns for Method Orange to potentially exploit. We may see a touch of death push from Trill to try and get an early ice block with this opportunity.
Yeah, we'll see if they can get it, but so far we've seen Method Orange, although making attempts on Wealthy Men, they're really not committing. You can tell by the talent choices and the strategy Method Orange is implementing. They're most likely going to be going after Chanimal.
Chanimal isn't running Mortal Coil anymore. He's running the Demonic Circle. That's interesting. He realized he was getting overwhelmed with Death Grip stuns, and instead of Mortal Coiling the enemies away, he's going to be able to portal to safety. I'm curious to see if that one change is enough for the Destruction Warlock that was waddling around before to be able to escape and get a kill.
Mortal Coil is actually on the same diminishing return as the Polymorph, so it's probably because Wealthy Man is going to be spamming out those Polymorphs anyway. Casting Circle could allow him to get a couple of fears out when he gets all in by Method Orange, so could potentially be a nice adaptation here.
Yeah, and I think the extra mobility that Chanimal has now with that portal is going to be huge, because like we kind of talked about, Chanimal getting gripped in and pinned down with the Ring of Pieces is one of the reasons why they lost, and now on this bigger map, he's going to have that extra mobility with the demonic portal, and he's going to be able to escape to safety. I think it was beautifully done by Super. This is something you don't normally see from a Destruction Warlock. I think it could pay off huge.
Let's see if it does. I'm wondering how Method Orange are going to overcome that. They can't just simply Death Grip Chanimal in. He can Demonic Circle out and escape, and then once he's escaped himself in, Wealthy Man will free cast, and Method Orange will have to compromise their positioning. Just one talent change from the Super Frogs may take what was an unfavored matchup into a favorable one, and we will have to wait to find out, as Method Orange are turtle all day basically at this point. You can't really blame them with the melee cleave composition. If they overextend into the Frost Mage, they're just going to get stuck in midfield, which would not be a great position for them to be in. Grip stun. I think they've got Chanimal on the same side as his Demonic Circle. He can't immediately escape. Chanimal needs to be careful so that doesn't happen later in the match. Doesn't seem necessary for him to Demonic Circle right now.
He has it in a good position.
He does?
Yeah, it's in.
He moved it again?
Wait. Yeah, moved it.
Where is it?
It's in like center. It's center of the map right now.
Okay.
There it is. So Chanimal with great positioning. Warlock like Chanimal, I don't expect him to be messing up. Demonic Circle gets dropped once again, just always positioning in a way where it's as far away as possible from Method Orange. So if they do grip him in, he can portal away to safety. And I wasn't expecting this from the Super Frogs. I feel like this is a really good answer to the strategy Method Orange is implementing. I don't know if they can pull off that same all-in, especially with Cubsy being able to drink. I think he will be able to keep Chanimal alive.
And he will be able to escape Tiger Eye Brew, which doesn't last forever. This one talent change might be enough for Super Frogs to just close the entire series out. Method Orange are going to have to figure out how best to combat that later into dampening. Maybe it means that Chanimal isn't the target, and Wealthy Man should be the target, but even that is going to be a risky exchange for Method Orange overall, but they're still reluctant to engage the Super Frogs just yet. Both teams holding on to basically every cooldown, not wanting to give themselves any disadvantage before dampening. Frozen Orb gets dropped by Wealthy Man. Cubsy jumps in, lands a stun, securing some burst here for the team potentially. Method Orange try to grip Wealthy Man in. He blinks to safety. I like the positioning with Chanimal on the left or the right. It's kind of hard with the camera rotating around on the left and Wealthy Man on the right. Chanimal's running the Succubus pet as well. We typically see a Fell Hunter, but running the Succubus to get an extra knockback and get a Seduce for extra crowd control. Chanimal's is really mixing up his build on Warlock here. Surprisingly, I like it. I think this curveball is exactly what they needed to try and catch Method Orange off guard.
Yeah, and I think catching a team off guard in a tournament like this is really important. If you're going to bring out a strategy, it would be on match point in such an important series, especially against a team like Method Orange. Method Orange have to try to find victory. I mean, Sid, what do you think they're going to do? Wealthy Man is just going to be a really durable target, especially with Chanimal backing him up. He's going to have 2 ice blocks. You're going to have to see big offensive pushes by Method Orange if they want to actually secure a kill in this matchup. But we saw what happened on the Grand Arena. If they don't pick their moment perfectly, they will be ripped apart eventually by the Blizzards of Wealthy Man and the Frozen Orbs and inevitably lose. So
thing is, when they get death gripped in, Chanimal can use the Succubus to knock back all 3 melee. They get snared by a Frozen Orb and a Blizzard in midfield, and then Chanimal just Demonic Circles to safety. Wealthy Man can blink to safety if he's the one gripped in. If Cubsy gets gripped in, I'm pretty sure Method Orange dies before Cubsy dies. Maybe that's their only option, though. It's just a race to kill Cubsy faster than they die, leaving Chanimal and Wealthy Man open. Everything else, I don't think it's going to work anymore for Method Orange.
Yeah, what I want to see is when Cubsy's pushing in and landing these rake stuns, what I want to see later on is either Trill or Sea-Doo getting a paralysis, and they just all in Cubsy. Really push him over the edge with Touch of Death, triple Maledict, eating up basically any healing Cubsy has available. And I think that could be a potential win condition for Method Orange, especially if Super Frogs and Cubsy's going to play so aggressive in the matchup.
Let's see how it plays out. Dampening now at 12%. The magic number in this matchup between Death Knights is around 30 to 40%, so it would be my expectation. Let's see if Chanimal's adaptation and talent can overcome what was a disadvantage matchup. I really like Chanimal's awareness. Even though this is a fatiguing series on his part, he's constantly repositioning that demonic circle so that he will be able to escape to safety, really keeping an eye on that so he doesn't overextend it. Cubsy constantly looking for drinks to make sure that he's maxed out his mana pool for the inevitable late game that this match will provide. Cubsy now in stealth looking to set up the team. Cubsy jumps in right when Chanimal gets gripped, denies some extra burst. Chanimal then can use the demonic gateway to safety. Surprised to see him use the Seduce on Mez. I was either expecting Seduce to crowd control Sea-Doo or Seduce to interrupt Fists of Fury. I don't see any benefit of using the Seduce on the Death Knight.
Yeah, I'm not really going to be able to get too much value, especially with Wealthy Man just throwing out blizzards and constant damage. The Seduce will eventually break to that damage. Chanimal resummoning his Succubus here in midfield, positioning very far away. And I really don't know what Method Orange is going to do. They have the capability of doing a big all-in push. At this point, I really feel like it should be on Cubsy. I mean, yeah, I feel like Cubsy could be the best target for sure, especially if he's moving in, trying to get the rake stuns. That's when you can punish him. Chanimal, they could also make all-in attempts onto him, but Method Orange is going to have to get a little bit more confident actually pushing off behind the pillar. When they just grip him in, allow him to portal away, they're not going to be getting anything done.
Counterspell on Sea-Doo, dampening now at 21%. Mez will become vulnerable. If Wealthy Man can get some good pressure, Cubsy re-stealths to get stuns with that Feral Affinity. Also important to note with the Feral Affinity, if you use Rake from stealth, it actually increases the damage of that Rake by 100%. So if Cubsy can get that on 3 members of the team, that will provide split pressure, adding to the damage overall on his entire roster. Mana's completely even. It's still too difficult to call who really has the edge. Chanimal has brought in multiple curveballs to potentially just close this series out. They have the lead 2-1. Method Orange desperately want to get a top finish in this tournament so that they can overthrow the boys in seeding and try and pass them so that they can dodge Wildcard Gaming and that they can dodge Method Black from the European region in the first round at the spring finals. So there is still a lot on the line for Method Orange, not to mention just the consequences of the entire year. If you can perform at the top level in a majority of the cups and earn the largest portion of points, then you just qualify directly to directly to the World Finals just on points. You don't even have to win one of the lands. So very important for Method Orange to have some consistency here and go all of the way. Super Frogs just appears to be their final boss that they can't beat.
Yep, and for Method Orange, although they're gripping in Chanimal, they're really not committing anything. You're going to tell when they want to get aggressive. When Trill uses his Storm, Earth, and Fire, he's going to split up into 2 different images, or 3 different images, and that's when you can tell that's when they want to really get out significant damage. They haven't done that yet, I believe, so far in this matchup, but here it is. Aggressive push onto Chanimal. Storm, Earth, and Fire gets popped. Cubsy trying to avoid the paralysis, but Trill inevitably lands it. Chanimal ports away to safety. Are Mez and Trill going to chase him down? Succubus now secured. Seduce onto Sea-Doo. Mez really vulnerable. Good crowd control here from Chanimal. Baiting Trill and Mez in the open, getting crowd control on Sea-Doo. And with no trinket, Sea-Doo's going to be very scared. He can't get out of Polymorph. He can't get out of Seduce. What is he going to do?
Wealthy Man blinks in, gets a triple frozen orb. Sea-Doo can use Way of the Crane to heal the team back to full. Wealthy Man then uses the Demonic Gateway to get to safety. Super Frogs are focused much more on mobility and escape mechanics in this specific matchup. A lot less about aggression, and we really haven't seen this particular strategy play out. This is the first time, and perhaps it is exactly what they need to overthrow the Windwalker Death Knight Mistweaver. They've got pressure still on 3 members. The real question is, like, how long do you wait as Sea-Doo? Do you just sit, like, what percent of dampening are you going to wait? We're now at the magic number, that 40% mark, where you would normally see the Destruction Warlock overwhelmed. Are they going to start going for Way of the Cranes yet? Infernals have landed. This is a scary moment for Method Orange. They're on match point.
Yeah, what are they going to do? Super Frog looking to close out this series. Infernals, once again, they deflect Mez, Trill, and Sea-Doo, forcing them to run and hide behind the pillar. Cubsy moves in, gets a stun. Chanimal gets asphyxiated and death gripped. Now he should be able to portal away to safety. Pressure now onto Sea-Doo. All three members of Method Orange rotting down. And Chanimal, he's been able to hold on to so many of his defensive cooldowns. We've known Chanimal as one of the best warlocks in the game to actually kite and escape these melee cleaves. With this demonic circle, he's been doing well so far. But now Method Orange finally finding a moment in the game to potentially take Chanimal down. Polymorph secured on Sea-Doo. Mez and Trill vulnerable, but Trill has a lot of defensive cooldowns at his disposal. Mez trying to heal himself up, but at 42% dampening, I don't know how much longer Mez can hold on.
Perfect crowd control chain. Mez exchanges basically every defensive cooldown that he's got. Super Frog still hold on to the unending resolve. They have the lead, they have the opportunity, and they have the surprise effect here to just close this series out 3-1. Sea-Doo in dire straits, multiple interrupts available here. Now counterspell coming up in 8. I want to see a Succubus play here. They Succubus Trill on his burst. They polymorph Sea-Doo. Good cross. Mez on the run. He's in trouble. Cubsy's hunting him down. It's 3-on-1 and he's going to fall. Super Frogs blow it out 3-1 with a surprise strategy.
And I think they've also shown just why they are the best team currently in the region. They're going to make it to Championship Sunday to do just that in another tournament, but making those tiny little adaptations within a composition, within a series, that's how you're the #1 team.
Well, this is why we love Chanimal in Legion. He wasn't playing with the double spell locks that often. Instead, he would opt for the Succubus, get those big CC chains. Again, today he's going to be bringing that out. And he's just such a clutch player as well with that demonic circle, realizing that it's a lot more defense to just be able to port out of danger, allow my mage to get more time to get crowd control, allow my mage to get more damage and snares out, and that's what makes them so great. And Cubsy as well, gonna add in that Vortex. Mez, nice depth advance to dodge that completely, but then again, Wealthy Man securing the polymorph. Chanimal as well, cross crowd controlling Trill with that Succubus, realizing that the Way of the Crane is the main win condition for them. So we're just gonna avoid that completely and manage to win.
That's one of those situations where it seemed like the solution was just so obvious. It's like, oh, you play with Demonic Circle. Now you have mobility and you can't be gripped in, pinned down, and killed. And I guess it took Chanimal and Snut's combined effort on Warlocks to sort of figured out that strategy, but it worked out really well, and this could potentially be meta-defining. Like, now all of a sudden, the Destruction Warlock isn't vulnerable to these melee cleaves. I don't know what the opening was for Method Orange in those games, but it did not look good for them.
How many Warlocks does it take to spec into a demonic portal? 2. Let's take a look at the bracket. Let's see where all of the dust has settled. We are set up now for our Championship Sunday, and we are going to see those top teams compete. We got the top 3 from each region. The move versus the boys going to be the first matchup in North America. Whoever loses that plays against the Super Frogs. Then those 2 teams that survive those series go to the grand finals, and we figure out who the best team is. This is going to be a bracket all about the move. Are they going to be able to get that top 4 status? And then we're going to move over to EU. We're actually going to start with EU. Method Black versus Wildcard Gaming. Pretty similar bracket to what we have seen week in and week out from the European region. The 2 top dogs going head-to-head once again. The loser of that one going to drop down to play against Change My Mind, who will play Spoiler, and then the grand final there as well. Let's take one last look, though, at the standings so we can really see what is at stake tomorrow. Method Black, Wildcard Gaming, and Change My Mind, the top 3 teams from EU going head-to-head to see if there can be any jumble, any switch-up as to where they are currently as they pull further and further ahead from that 4th spot in ABC. And